A very good morning to the students, faculty members, and one and all gathered here today to commemorate the Rajoshi Basu Memorial Program. We feel elated to share the presence of Reverend Professor Manoranjan Mohanty, renowned political scientist and scholar who has worked extensively on the regional role of China and India, human rights, and social development. Esteemed members of the Council of Political Studies, we are now honored to host a series of discussions and remarks on revisiting Gandhi at 1:50. I request Venerate Professor Abdul Samad Gayan, the head of the Department of Political Science, Presidency University, to inaugurate the session by offering the welcome address.
Suprabhat, Namaskar, a very good morning to all of you. Respected Professor Manoranjan Mohanty, respected Professor Shobhollal Dattagupta, my esteemed colleagues, friends, and above all, our children, very own children, our own students. This is one of the finest moments in the history of the Department of Political Science, Presidency University, formerly Presidency College. Not because we are on the verge of organizing a day-long national seminar, not that. Seminar being an inseparable part and parcel of this department, of this university, if I'm not wrong, for the last 200 years. But, and that is very important, we are here today to organize a day-long seminar on a personality whom the world considered to be one of the greatest sentinel in the entire history of mankind, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi. The seminar, at the backdrop of 150th year birth anniversary of Gandhi, being titled Revisiting Gandhi at 150, I extend warm welcome to all of you to be a party of this extraordinary occasion when we'll try throughout the day with our limited capacities to explore, to interact, to share on the views left behind by this great sentinel for our society, for the universe, for the days to come. Well, it's a customary practice, but I must say, as already I have expressed to you, sir, Professor Mohanty, Presidency is known to you since 1980s when we had been a student in the Department of Political Science. This department knows no restriction how to extend love, respect, admiration for you, who happen to be an integral part of the syllabi, who happen to be an integral part of the classroom lectures, if I'm not wrong, last 4 decades, since 1983 when I was baptized in this college. Perhaps you were there although before to that. So it is your homecoming. Please accept our heartfelt gratitude for coming, taking so much pain from New Delhi to this city. We are really privileged. In this connection, I would like also to extend my pranam in Bengali language called Ushno Bhalobasha. Love, Madam, for you, Madam Bidyut Mohanty. Please accept pranam on behalf of the department, the students, the teaching faculty, the non-teaching, and the whole university. I know to what extent you have been drawn to this institute, and your first expression, yes, I'm connected to the institute simply because I have been taught by none other than 2 great persons, Amartya Sen and Sukhomoy Chakraborty. What a brilliant connection to Presidency University. So welcome to you once more. Yes, on the dais, my teacher, an integral part of whatever political science is known to us in Kolkata, in Bengal, in our known world. He is an integral part of our initiative, Professor Shobhanlal Dattagupta. So, once more, sir, you are there, you will be there, and as you know, presidency has no limit, no boundary to extend love and warmth for you. Thank you, sir. I also welcome some of my friends who have taken so much pain coming from different parts of India, I could see right now. I can't mention separately their name. Some of my colleagues from different colleges of West Bengal and universities too. Here, from the center of Dirozio, coming down to Abhijit Binayak Bandopadhyay, and of course, from the Department of Political Science, and to a large extent, Political Science Department was responsible for the birth of a center in Calcutta called Council for Political Studies. I extend welcome to all of you on behalf of both the Department of Political Science and Council for Political Studies. Above all, beyond doubt, I extend once more unflinching love, admiration, affection for our young scholars, including our students. Let you be here through your participation, lively participation. Let us try to make this day truly a creative day. So, with these few words, I request Professor Shobhanlal Dattagupta to take chair. Just I need to mention here, most unfortunately, two key persons today who are supposed to be integral part of this program. First, the president of our Council for Political Studies, our very own teacher at presidency, Professor Ashok Kumar Sarkar, unfortunately fell seriously ill. He is not here, but he has a long discussion with me. Samad, I will be there. Just you inform your students, sorry, on hell ground at the last moment. Even yesterday in the evening, he was in our department. He couldn't come. Okay? So when Professor Sarkar is not there, I request SDG sir, who is the General Secretary of the Council for Political Studies, as well as an integral part of our existence here, to take chair. And sir, I hand over to you. Please start the inaugural session. Thank you, all of you. Thank you once more.
A very warm good morning to all of you, and especially Professor Manoranjan Mohanty. I will say just a few words by way of introduction in regard to Professor Manoranjan Mohanty. Now there is a very standard way of introducing speakers on such occasions. What normally happens is that the person who introduces tells about the formal position of the speaker. Then what happens is, and most of the times, a list of publications that is read out by the introducer. I will deviate from this practice. Of course, Professor Manoranjan Mohanty has got a very formal kind of identity, as it happens always. He retired as Professor of Political Science from Delhi University long back. And as many of you know, he is a sinologist also. He is conversant with Chinese language, and he has specialized in China. And he was he was chairperson of Institute of Chinese Studies. Then he was distinguished professor and editor of Social Change, and distinguished professor, Council for Social Development. Now, but I think so far as Professor Manoranjan Mohanty is concerned, this is a very formal way of introducing Professor Mohanty. I would like to add a few things. Professor Manoranjan Mohanty belongs to a generation of political scientists who actually shaped, I would say, the orientation, the study of political science in India since the late 60s. So in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Many of us, we worked together on several issues. The most important thing about Professor Mohanty is that he is not just an academic. Yes, formally he is a very distinguished academic, very well-known scholar, very acclaimed scholar, nationally and internationally. But the most important thing about Professor Mohanty is that he is a committed social scientist. He is committed to the cause of, I believe, humanism, socialism, and democracy. In all his writings, he has been guided very steadily by these concerns. And the other thing about Professor Mohanty is that he has actually traversed so many fields. Many of you know him, of course, through his writings, say writings on Indian politics, on China, but he has worked very extensively on political theory, on different issues of politics. He has taken part in so many kinds of, say, seminars, conferences, and to a large extent, I would say he has been a major inspiration for the younger generation, for young people, for young scholars. He, in a way many of you do not know, he is not just a scholar, he was an institution. Institution in the sense, he actually provided a new shape to the Department of Political Science, Delhi University. He built up the Department of Comparative Studies, Comparative Politics. And when I was in Delhi for a short period, that was probably in the late 80s. So at that time I had a very close interaction with Professor Mohanty and his colleagues. And there I had this experience, the way he is respected by his students. And there I got this impression that he is not just a scholar, not just an academic, but he is an institution. And finally, I would like to say another thing, and I think that is very, very relevant today on this occasion. That is, as I said, he has covered so many fields throughout his life and is still a very active academic. And he actually has written on Marx, on left politics. At the same time, he has also written on various issues concerning Indian political thought and very much on Gandhi. This perhaps many of you do not know. In fact, some years back, I remember he invited me, but I could not come. He repeatedly requested me, but I said, I'm very sorry, I just cannot come. That is, he was very much interested in organizing a conference on Hind Swaraj. So that was his idea of how to organize a conference on Hind Swaraj, and he told me that why should I not present a paper on, say, comparative kind of discussion between Communist Manifesto and Hind Swaraj. I said, yes, that's a great idea, but unfortunately I just cannot come. And today, in fact, with our program that way has been slightly rescheduled in the sense that perhaps those of you who are present here, not all of you, but some of you perhaps know that in the year 2018-2019, Presidency University Department of Political Science and Council for Political Studies organized a series of lectures on the occasion of the Karl Marx's 200th birth anniversary. So 3 lectures were organized. And these 3 lectures eventually have been published. And the publication is now available there or sale outside. So we have taken the opportunity today to formally launch this book, and we have requested Professor Mohanty, and he has so kindly agreed. It was very short notice, but we just couldn't help it. So Professor Mohanty has agreed, and he will now formally release this book, that is the 3 bicentennial lectures which were organized in the year 2018-2019. And once he releases this book, once this launch program is over, then Professor Mohanty will deliver the keynote address.
I would now like to request Professor Manoranjan Mohanty, retired professor of Delhi University Department of Political Science and former chairperson of Institute of Chinese Studies, New Delhi, to deliver the keynote address. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Namaskar. Jai Jagat. I'm so delighted to release this book. In fact, I wish I had got it at least yesterday noon or something. I got it at 10 o'clock last night. But I read one, your essay, Soban, and glanced through the other essays. It introduces what we have been up to for the last 50 years. And here we means our generation. Sobanlal Dattagupta, Shivani Kinkar Chaube, that generation, Sudipta Kaviraj, and several of you know about this generation, and the rest of us. And it is, I'll just read out one sentence from Soban's conclusion. It was because he talks in the first lecture, because he has been a great scholar who has read the texts, the documents, not only by Marx and Engels, but also their contemporaries, and his recent books on Bukharin, Rosa Luxemburg, and his writings on the Eastern question, then the German archives, East German archives, where he got the Soviet documents and so on. India's most minute analyst and theorist of the history of Marxism in the world. I'll just read the last few sentences. It was not a transition. He's criticizing those who talk about the many contrasts, young Marx, mature Marx, and so on. And then he says, it was not a transition from young to mature Marx, from alienation to class struggle, from Paris manuscripts 1844 to Capital 1867. Rather, it was the intellectual journey of a mind which aimed at an understanding of the historical truth of capitalism by simultaneously moving in many directions, by drawing on resources from all possible domains of knowledge. It is not, therefore, the story of a Marx who moves from one phase to another through, quote, epistemological breaks, as Althusser did it, but probably undertakes a journey that witnesses turns, Kratk, at different historical moments. Viewed through the lens of Mega, this is the Marx-Engels miscellany project, the young Marx versus mature Marx debate of the last century thus appears somewhat irrelevant today. Moreover, this new image of Marx dethrones the mainstream understanding that Marx built up a closed and complete scientific system in regard to the explanation of the history of mankind. On the contrary, the new image of Marx that is emerging is that of an incomplete Marx whose restless, investigative mind was ever vibrant, recognizing no closure. It is precisely this element of incompleteness, this restless search for truth, which provided the element of dynamism in Marxist thought. I think hats off really to this initiative of the Council for Political Studies and Presidency College tradition of Marxist inquiry. I'm privileged to be part of this moment. Friends, when I was asked to come for this occasion, I of course agreed, and my mind went back to 4 decades when we were the struggling young scholars. We were part of, Sovan and I were part of that generation who were trying to get inspiration from Marxist writings and Marxist legacy, but questioning all the time not only the rightist formulations, the centrist or all those formulations, but all the mainstream, even left mainstream ideas, and trying to dialogue with them. And that pursuit continues. That's why in 2009, when I took the initiative to organize the centenary of Hind Swaraj, 1909 to 2009, many of my Marxist friends wondered, what is this Marxist doing with Gandhi's Hind Swaraj? But by now I think it is clear, and we just held a international seminar on Satyagraha in the 21st century. Well, I won't tell you the details how it was organized, because all the established sources of funding refused to support that seminar, and including ICSSR Culture Ministry, and made many conditions. Don't invite Medha Patkar, then we will support, things like that. But thanks to the support of my colleagues in Council for Social Development, where I am a visiting scholar. They call me differently, but I have an office there after my retirement, from where I edit Social Change. And the IIC, India International Center, where the former governor of Jammu and Kashmir, N.N. Vora, who became uncomfortable with the present regime and came back to IIC, now he supported. So just IIC and CSD organized this. And Asiatic Society, Calcutta, did support, but not to the extent that they had promised. But I'm grateful that they did finally have had some symbolic support. But we went ahead. Now, why Hind Swaraj and Satyagraha? For those who are Marxists. You see, and this is why Council for Political Studies and what we have set up as Creative Theory Colloquium, or in Odisha, I'm just coming from the 27th Annual Conference of Gaveshana Chakra, which is a research society of Odisha. We held it in Koraput on the tribal question. And after that I went to Malkangiri, which is famous for other things, encounters, right? But people are struggling for their basic rights in Malkangiri. I went to see what was happening there. We went to see, both Vidyut and I. So what I'm saying is, we are struggling for these values, and someone put it very well: socialism, humanism, and democracy. And because our understanding of Marxism is that it provided more satisfactory or more powerful paths opening up towards humanism and democracy than any other alternative paths. And that was the message of Marxism our generation, this group of Marxists got. That is why we wanted to recall Hind Swaraj, which was a fundamental critique of capitalism, materialist interpretation of Western civilization, that is Western civilizational materialism, I think Gandhi was wrong. All civilizations have materialism, idealism, and all those things. All civilizations have. But at least at that moment, and even today, many people think that West represents materialism, East non-materialism or idealism. Nothing like that. But it was a critique of, that mechanical materialism, which was also in the dialectical materialism debate. Okay, and it was a critique of that industrial revolution capitalism. The Gandhi's critique of industrialism in Hind Swaraj was the path of the industrial revolution, which has created so much inequalities, alienation, and destruction of nature. I think Greta Thunberg has brought that debate to the fore today. Now, that was Hind Swaraj. And why last year, 150th anniversary of Gandhi's birth, some of us chose Satyagraha as our most inspiring element in the Gandhi legacy. Only a few of us chose Satyagraha. You scan through the celebrations by Gandhians and the state-sponsored functions. Very few people took interest in Satyagraha. And because it has something to do with human aspirations through protest, through revolutionary challenge to structures of injustice, structures of untruth, structures of falsehood, false claims. That is why Satyagraha becomes so important. Now I will turn to the slides. Well, who celebrated how? I think you should ask this question. Gandhi 150. Well, I'm bound to be, old people having too many frustrations and some excitement in life, want to share those things with the younger generation. I'm so glad so many of you came forward to remember some of our writings. So you should ask. I remember in 1969, when the centenary was being celebrated, Pran Chopra invited me in 71. I had just finished my PhD. To help him in writing a book on how Gandhi was celebrated abroad. Government of India had brought together all the reports through the embassies. And so I read through not only Gandhi's most important writings, but also these tributes. That was my lesson in Gandhi, some 9-month short course on Gandhi, because previously we used to read texts and so on. And I didn't agree to be his co-author. I wanted my first book to be my book. So the book is Pran Chopra's. He acknowledges me very generously. So it's called The Sage in Revolt. The book is difficult to find, but those of you who can, you find my interpretation of Gandhi in 1971 in that book, The Sage in Revolt. And since then, and I must say that later on got confirmed as Randhir Singh, my teacher, my Marxist teacher, who died a few years ago, and we have produced 2 books. I have written the introduction to selected writings of Randhir Singh, and then Dhananjay Rai has written tributes to Randhir Singh. You must read some of those essays. And my essay is on my understanding of dialectical and historical materialism, what I learned from Randhir Singh and how I struggled with it in my research on Mao, Chinese Revolution, Indian Communist Movement, world transformation, globalization, and so on. That was my essay. In fact, some of that is reflected here. So that is why those Marxists like us, who take interest in Gandhi, interest in Ambedkar, interest in ecological questions, interest in questions, and that's why the Rosa Luxemburg book is so important. Democracy is so important. Socialists, communists have to prove that they are more democratic than capitalists. They are more humanist than capitalists. This was one of my criticisms of the Maoist movement. Those of you who have read some of my essays, later essays particularly, also in Revolutionary Violence, but in Red and Green, there are 2 essays which critique this. My essay on the Ghinwa Santhal thesis on violence deals with this. And so the ecological question, the democracy question, the caste question. I remember, well, I was privileged, when we had Sovan as visiting professor in our department. These were the questions. And my students, Marindra Thakur, Madhulika Banerjee, your students, today, they are grateful to have interacted with you, Hargopal, people like A.R. Desai who came and visited our department. So something in Marxism that was denied by the mainstream Communist Party establishments, and we insisted, when we took up the question of caste, Gail Ombhat and I initiated that project and we published Land, Caste and Politics. Then we took up nationality question, race question, gender question, finally religion. Many of our Marxist friends said, you have gone crazy, new left Marxists. We said, sorry, we have to grapple with these questions and confront with them as Marxists, dialectical and historical materialism, practicing Marxists. And that's why the restless Marx, who took insights from all kinds of sources to address new questions all the time. I think that attracted me so much in your conclusion. I think that is the hope for the Marxist opening to the future. I have a little essay after the collapse of Soviet Union. It's called Socialism Tomorrow. I still stick to that it is that kind of socialist vision, the vision of endless freedom. That is my definition of creative society. Pursuit of freedom in multiple spheres, interconnected spheres, and yet to be discovered arenas of domination and unfreedom. And that is why Satyagraha becomes so important. And you should ask why Satyagraha is always sought to be diminished to specific forms of just questioning, protest, small-scale things, rather than linking it to basic issues. This is why I regard, 2019, Gandhi's 150, inaugurating a new phase of Satyagraha in contemporary history. And in India, I was so glad when I entered Presidency Gate, 160th day of the Kashmir lockdown, Kashmir repression. I'm a part of the Pakistan India People's Forum for Peace and Democracy. I'm a former president. And every day, PIPA-PD, WhatsApp group and Facebook group also publishes 159th day, 160th day with a new slogan and a new poster. You should see that. So I'm so glad presidency, students and faculty and the democratic rights movement in the country are at the same page, on the same page. So the Kashmir decision, the Satyagraha questioning the National Register of Citizens, the Citizenship Amendment Act and the National Population Register, which otherwise would have been a normal census. Name, age, residence, and some other things like literacy and religion. Those were the things. But now it's going to be your parents or your father's place of birth, because that is relevant to the Citizenship Amendment Act and the National citizenship register. And the students and youth rising to defend the constitutional vision. This is why I think all of you are reading the preamble every day in some protest or the other. I would not take any time to read the preamble, but when I said Jai Jagat, I meant that. The constitutional vision of India is the global vision of socialism, democracy, humanism. And it's not just the human species, it is the Jagat, it is the universe, the human and the other species altogether. That's why climate change is more than human. We have a book on global future, emerging thresholds, the global vision 2030. Richard Falk, myself, and Victor Faisal have edited that. 2 years ago it was published. So that is the constitutional vision we have. We have this. Now, this is why, and please remember, 2020 was a landmark year for many. Vision 2020. In China, this is the year when they want to show to the world, show to themselves that they have built a well-off society in all respects. And they claim that they have accepted this. But, they have achieved it. But I have this book published last year, China's Transformation, the Success Story and the Success Trap, where I think the microphone has, sorry. I had stopped that actually. So the success story and the success trap. How it's a developing capitalist society led by a communist party. The present leadership. I have edited another book just published. It's called China at a Turning Point. There 3 generations of China scholars have written, and that is also our conclusion, though the perspectives vary, that the claim or the original vision of socialism and the Chinese Revolution is no longer guiding them. It is only lip service that they are paying. Okay, so that is and that is why the Satyagraha discourse or the Satya Charcha, truth discourse in 2020 is about the future of global transformation. The future path of global transformation. Now, there is a path debate all over the world and in India also. And Gandhi provides us that link. And genuine Marxists will recall the original questions raised by Marx from time to time, and Marxists through failures and successes from time to time. And the crisis in capitalism alerts us to that. And the crisis in capitalism is so deep that Trump berates climate change, withdraws from the Paris climate deal, and resorts to militarization. And Trump and his ilk, and our leadership today, resorts to militarization to pursue their goals. That is the Kashmir. So through military means, you impose something, even though formally it's a parliamentary decision. So that is the debate. What path of transformation humanity has to traverse from now on? So 2020, 2019, 2020 is that landmark moment in our lifetime. That's why the future generation has to keep this in mind. That is why, I'll quickly go through this because I will come to my main point a little later, that Satyagraha is about questioning the untruth underlying the premises of policies and institutions and practices. So that is the thesis that I'm trying to develop. But we must know that Satyagraha is a very common word used as civil disobedience, protest campaigns, demonstrations, protest marches, recent farmer Satyagraha, year year before and last year, and of course the CAA related satyagraha of the youth all over the country. Okay? The many innovative forms from IIM Ahmedabad to Sainbag to many, I'm sure presidency has innovated many new things. Calcutta, every day I'm seeing many new forms of protest in West Bengal. But you should ask, the question is why it is launched, and go deep. Is there an idea of truth underlying the action? Satyagraha is truth pursuit or action based on commitment to truth. So the premise is, and this is what you should also see. I have told you we had this seminar, CSD IIC seminar, and we held not only seminars, the usual type of papers and so on. We had poets. We had a whole evening of 7 important Indian poets, Satyagraha in verse. We had dance performance on 7 episodes of Satyagraha by Geeta Chandran, and so on. So the truth pursuit brings together history and multiple dimensions for judging truth claims in the specific realms such as education, individual and group behavior, economic development, and multiple areas. The question is whether it is truth pursuit or the truth claim is superficial and not deep, because you are questioning premises of existing policies. Please remember, for example, I'll now quickly refer to Gandhi's Satyagraha moments. South Africa case 1906 against racial discrimination. Gandhi thrown out of the first-class railway compartment. So, what is the untruth? Race-based claim to superiority is the untruth. But the policy was that on that basis. They claimed that was the valid. They claimed that, yes, the whites are superior. Same with the Champaran Satyagraha, 1915-17. The indigo farmers protest against the policy of forcing the farmers of Champaran in Bihar to cultivate indigo rather than their preferred crops. So the farmers' demand was just and true. Gandhi's claim in South Africa that all humans are equal, white, black, brown, they are all equal. So if they have first-class compartment, they have paid the fare, they have right to use the first-class compartment. You can't reserve the first-class compartment only for the whites. So he questioned that. He questioned the untrue premise of that policy. Similarly, the indigo farmers questioned the false premise of the forcible policy of the British government, forcing them to cultivate indigo just because the indigo, the color, was in great demand in Europe. Similarly, in Gujarat, Kheda Satyagraha in 1918, the peasant patidars against the 23% tax hike. So they had a march towards so in 1918 March onwards, they had non-violent campaign in rural areas. But the security forces had a violent drive, attacking them, had a drive to confiscate land, destroying homes, taking away the cattle. Then as soon as the Satyagraha evolved, people donated all their cattle and possessions to the common pool. So they challenged the false claim of the government, which had hiked the tax. The Salt Satyagraha of 1930, ban on people's right to make salt out of sea water. That ban was unjust. It violated the truth norms. So, the famous Love and Satyagraha. Now, the Quit India movement is not called Satyagraha, as if Satyagraha is a very timid. It's not a timid action. Satyagraha can be a revolutionary action. Quit India movement was a very high form of Satyagraha. Bharat Chhod Andolan, do or die was the slogan. In popular discourse, not called Satyagraha. Non-violence, because Satyagraha is equated sometimes with non-violence, but you don't know. Probably it is. But why peaceful path is violated, that's a question. So one ought to debate. Violence did take place in the 1942 movement, Quit India movement. Militancy not approved? Yes, it was approved. It was do or die militancy. So the persistence was important. Therefore, the right to independence of Indians was based on truth claims. And colonialism is based on untrue claims. That those white people who have the power to give so-called civilization, science, technology, high products, and so on, they have a right to rule over others. That is the false claim, untrue claim. When the premises underlying a policy or action were false or untrue, that is when Satyagraha takes place. The pursuit of truth led to challenging them. That is Satyagraha. Therefore, friends, we have to bring Satyagraha to political theory. And you know, there is so much writing separately on Swaraj. It is still not found in our political science book, political theory book on the chapter on liberty or freedom. Still not found. I would like Satyagraha, truth discourse, to be brought to the core of politics, core of discourse on politics. And I think Marxists have to take that initiative, because I remember Ashok Mitra edited the tributes to Samar Sen. What was the title? My generation will remember. Truth Unites was the title. Truth Unites. And therefore, I think truth discourse has to be brought in. And we must take the autobiography of Gandhi seriously. And I will not devote time on that. Because you can read, it's freely now available on the net. Those are the linkages, the links, and you know his confessions, failures, successes in his childhood, boyhood, then South Africa, and the book covers right up to 27. Okay, and but we can extrapolate from his other speeches and writings. And from the book Satyagraha in South Africa, and also Constructive Program. You know, Hind Swaraj, Satyagraha in South Africa, and Constructive Program are the only three texts. Dhananjay Rai, my student and colleague in Gujarat University now, Central University, he contributed his paper. It's coming out in the special issue of Social Change on Satyagraha in September. And so autobiography has to be taken seriously as a text, just as we study Hind Swaraj or Plato's Republic or Rousseau's Social Contract and so on, or Communist Manifesto. Indeed, one JNU scholar wrote Hind Swaraj and Communist Manifesto, and on New Democracy. These three, T.G. Suresh wrote an essay. It has been published. Now, now, why for democratic theory Satyagraha is so important? Now, all students of politics know that democracy, forget about that Abraham Lincoln slogan, please, it doesn't explain anything. You have to go deeper into what democracy is all about. I mean, our Hind Swaraj seminar, defined democracy as Swaraj and then extrapolated. What does it mean? And this self and other, self in relationship, and so on. And that is why the Marxist theory of the individual and collective is so important, and the relationship is so important. Okay, it's about self-governance. That is the basic premise. And it's also true that there is inequality among humans. And the basis of monarchy, dictatorship, autocracy, and even though there is constitutional framework of democracy, there is the ideology which believes that some are not fit for self-governance. They have to be educated, they have to be trained, they have to be enabled, and so on. You see, because there is no basic faith in equality of humans. This is the point. Therefore, many people believe that they are not fit to rule, so the powerful, the wise, the strong, the rich, they ruled. I mean, there is an absurdly forceful book by Daniel Bell. It's called In Defense of Hierarchy, just published on China, from Confucianism to Xi Jinping. I haven't yet read the book. I have seen the reports about it, but I just use this term, absurdly forceful. Untrue, a series of untrue premises from Confucius to now, in defense of hierarchy. Look, administrative distribution of power with checks and balances in liberal ways and in self-governance and self-correcting mechanisms in the Marxist ways or the communist ways, not as it is practiced by today's communist parties, but it should be. That's very different. So the uneven distribution of power is one thing, but to justify hierarchy is another. Why you have state, center, district, panchayat, and so on, and how they are all important. That is the whole theory of democracy. All the tiers are important. From individual to every layer is important. That is the theory of democracy. Every self, individual, then the collective self, then a regional self, then a sub-regional self or a cultural self, how different selves reconcile. I have a paper called Ubuntu. Ubuntu in Zulu language of South Africa, a term revived by Nelson Mandela and Desmond Tutu in the 90s to tackle the South African new situation of freedom, how to have the blacks and the non-blacks, whites live together. It means, Ubuntu means, I am because you are. So this mutuality of existence, mutuality of development. So that is what democracy is all about. Because the premise is equal worth of all humans. That is why we fought against colonialism. Every people must be self-governing people. That is the anti-colonial mantra. And thanks to Marxism, this idea emerged. Liberalism talked about it, but it did not go for its substance, equality. Marxism said why there is inequality. It disclosed the basis of inequality in structures. And then we reinterpreted history through historical and materialist ways, caste inequality, race inequality, gender inequality, and many kinds of inequality. By the way, I have this paper I'll give you in the latest Oxford Handbook of Global Studies. I have a 12,000-word essay on inequality. So I'm glad you have taken note of some of my theoretical writings. This is just published. So the Marxism disclosed the basis of inequality. So this realization from Buddha to now is one stream of thought that is the basis of democracy. The historical reality is that the contention between two schools of thought, those who believe that 5 fingers are unequal, my goodness, 5 fingers have each their value, each its value. Therefore, inequality is not quantitative, height or length or weight, that difference. It's not an arithmetic or mathematical difference. It is a power relationship. Conditions, unequal conditions which make some more powerful than others, deny freedom to some and help others. So this is about inequality. So democracy as a system is based on equality. That is the truth premise. But today there are 3 major crisis points in democratic practice. Mobilization, overpowering reason. Those of you who have heard the recordings of Gandhi's speech, not very impressive, not, well, I don't want to take the names of our 2 most important leaders today and their style of speaking. Gandhi and Nehru were not good speakers. Jayaprakash was not a good speaker. Jyoti Basu was not a good speaker. But they had all powerful logic. They would touch the chord of reason and emotion also, but reason and emotion. So reason as the basis of democracy. Equality, freedom, justice and reason are the 4 kernels of democracy. Reason, debate. And without reason you can't pursue truth. You are reasoning to say that all humans are equal. That's why race cannot be a basis of bus ticket or train ticket or school admission discrimination. That is why Article 14, Article 15, Article 16 in our Constitution. Not mobilization. Not 200 MPs in 70 constituencies of Delhi deployed from today of the ruling party. 200 MPs have been deployed in 70 constituencies of Delhi from today to mobilize, speak. Yesterday somebody said, shoot the traitors, my goodness. Shahin Bagh, and there are Shahin Baghs of Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Parsis, Christians, young, old, men, women, all over the country today. It's not a Muslim women's group sitting there and protesting. And you are saying we are all traitors and we should be shot down. So today, mobilization is overpowering reason, whereas reason is the basis of democracy. This we learn from Gandhi, Marx, Ambedkar. Ambedkar was not also a demagogue, by the way. Then, emptying institutions and laws of their spirit. You say that Parliament has passed it. Constitution has allowed it. They can amend the Constitution. Bajpayee had gone as far as having a review commission and then gave up. There was a lot of demand that this constitution is good and only the ruling class finds it inconvenient at that time and more so today. Neoliberal, Hindutva ruling class finds our constitution, which was the product of the freedom struggle. We have many complaints. Marxists have many complaints. But today Marxists of all hues must defend the constitution because it is the product of many strands of freedom struggle embodied there, and that much we must defend today. So today the danger we see is emptying of institutions and laws of their spirit, and then centralizing all power, suppressing individuals, groups, regions and state governments. The latest being that the Koregaon case, NIA is taking over, bypassing the Maharashtra government. My goodness, it was your government 2 years ago which had that. And today that government, after taking all the evidences, has decided to withdraw the case. Formally that is not out, but we know from various reports in the press. And yesterday the news was that the NIA claims its authority that it can take over any case from anywhere. So centralization. Whereas Satyagraha is about truth pursuit based on Swaraj claims, Swaraj premises. That is decentralization and self-governance. And more explanations of that here. And if you see from Gandhi's life, you can see that lessons from Satyagraha in South Africa is persistent exposure of racism by protest actions and reasoning on equality. This is why protests today must continue like Gandhi continued the protests right from Satyagraha in South Africa and Champaran to the Quit India. Similarly, Champaran Satyagraha taught us united, persistent mass movement established truth and justness of the farmers' demands, opening a new path of agrarian change in India. So unity of all the democratic forces today is so important. I think the division among the left and democratic forces, I think today what we need to face the greatest challenge to our constitutional vision is unity. And this is the lesson from Champaran and Gandhi's leadership of Champaran. The Champaran has many lessons, including what is revolution, what is movement all about. You know, he started with a literacy campaign for all, then a health campaign, a vaccination campaign. All these people, Dr. Rajendra Prasad landed there as a doctor. You see? And then, all these leaders went to Champaran, those of you who have read this. Then centralization. Salt Satyagraha and Quit India provided response to take on the strong, centralized, powerful adversary based on popular upsurge. And if I had 3 hours, then I would have video clippings on all these, then and now. What Champaran, what South Africa can teach today, what Champaran can teach today, what Quit India, Salt Satyagraha can teach us for today. So united mass action and persistence, and all to their own forms. That is what you need. Now, I think I'll take 5 minutes on a philosophical discourse, just giving some hints, and read a paper, abstract of a paper only, not the whole paper. You must all read Gandhi on truth on several occasions, and including his address to the Asian Relations Conference, and his dialogue with Romain Rolland, and how Romain Rolland said God is truth, Gandhi said truth is God. I mean, he secularized the whole thing. I will now, I think, read and conclude this. Friends, one of the creative theory tasks has been to evolve new vocabulary, new non-English, non-Western vocabulary inspired by Marx, Gandhi, Ambedkar, and all of them. Swaraj is one, Chefang or liberation is another. I wrote an essay 20 years ago on this, Swaraj and Chefang in Freedom Discourse. Another essay on Ubuntu I just mentioned, BNVF, I have not studied that very much. From Latin America, Earth and Human complementing and moving forward, and today it is Satyagraha. I think we have done that. Now I'll just read an abstract. We had one full panel on truth discourse in global traditions in this recent seminar, which 5 scholars from Calcutta attended, who managed to find their own money to go there. We had no money to get scholars. Gandhi's use of the term truth opens up new questions that challenge us to analyze and compare truth discourses in different philosophical traditions. There are three aspects that his discourse on truth in general and Satyagraha in particular highlights. One, truth is rooted in practice. I'm so glad. All three of you in these Marx lectures emphasize this, the relationship between truth and practice. This is the theme of Gandhi's autobiography, The Story of My Experiments with Truth. Many mass campaigns illustrated this. But does it mean that the notion of evidence through observation and verification, as stressed by European philosophy, adequately captures this evidence, captures the notion of practice? Sorry, it's more than that. Two, in his statement, truth is God, Gandhi attributes supreme power to truth, calls it the truth, the great force. Is it the same as the assertion in Upanishadic formulation of Indian philosophy that the divine condition or nature of reality can be comprehended only by meditation? I'm not so sure. Third, the human pursuit of truth is always partial and continuous. Otherwise, Gandhi said, there would be no distinction between humans and God. This is the norm in Confucian philosophy in China that puts performance of duties by various entities and continuously improving in practice of virtue, so as to approximate heaven's laws. That is Confucian, one interpretation of Confucianism. Now, my theme, my comments on Gandhi and truth. While practice in the actual world, intense reflection on logic and reason in the name of supreme force, and built-in skepticism are crucial elements in truth pursuit, global history and its 21st century articulation draw attention to some yet unexplored dimensions. They arise from technological mobilization on the one hand and resurgent popular traditions on the other. They open up many new dimensions on all these three premises of Gandhi's notion of truth. Satyagraha has a new philosophical and political challenge. Either it is an outdated framework overwhelmed by new concepts of rationality, some would say that, and abandoned it. Oh, it was relevant in Gandhi's time. Sorry, not in my view. My view is to stress its relevance, which is enriched by a new set of powerful methods of reasoning and transformative action as the pursuit of truth. Therefore, the open-endedness, the creative theory of Satyagraha is what is the challenge before all of us, so that we can build a new world based on truth pursuit that is about equality, freedom, and reason. Thank you very much.
We commence with our first business session, chaired by Professor Monoranjan Mohanty, accompanied by esteemed speakers, retired Professor Tapan Chattopadhyay, Department of Political Science, Calcutta University, Professor Abdus Samad Gayan, Head of the Department of Political Science, Presidency University. I request you all to please come up on the stage.
I usually insist on a question-answer session after my talk everywhere. But I have been assured that that can be done in course of the day. So do keep your questions for me also later on. But this is a very important session. We have three papers. One by Professor Tapan Chattopadhyay, former Professor of Political Science, Calcutta University, and Professor Abdus Samad Gayan, Head of the Department, Presidency University, Political Science, and Professor Supriya Munshi, former Director, Gandhi Smarak Sangrahalaya, Barakpur. Unfortunately, Professor Munshi fell sick, so his paper would be read by Dr. Madhura Damle, Department of Political Science, Presidency University. I have great pleasure in inviting Professor Abdul Samad Gayan to present his paper.
Thank you, sir. But apology a little bit. I'm not going to offer any paper. It is primarily due to unbelievable amount of strains that I have been passing through in the last couple of weeks. Really, I couldn't prepare any paper. But I have written, rather tried to write something on Gandhi in the last couple of years. So taking from here and there, I would like to share with you exclusively from my personal point of view. Okay. Today, what I would like to share with you is a topic which can be given the caption like this: security, peace, and progress, revisiting Gandhi in the 21st century. Any discussion on the concerned subject must evoke to many of you issues and controversies which are essentially problematic in nature. At the heart of the controversy, there is the question whether Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi remains at all relevant in an entirely different socio-economic and political milieu of the 21st century. In other words, to what extent one can fit Gandhi, his thought and action, in a fast-changing global context or scenario. The discussion will be revolving around this central question or queries. This, to me, in turn presupposes a critical inquiry into two major things. First, the very nature of the 21st century itself, major issues and concerns that characterize the current century. How does it differ from the 20th century? At least the first half of the 20th century that Gandhi represented. Is there any really qualitative transformation? Is there anything similarities between the two centuries at all? That's a very, very vital question we need to address before we try to fit Gandhi in our contemporary context. Second, Gandhi's ideas and actions, which can be tested against the possible challenges of the 21st century. Is there anything which may be termed as coherent Gandhian ideas? To examine first the second issue, Gandhi's ideas and concepts. Gandhi was neither a philosopher nor a system builder, sir, like that of Karl Marx. Yet, having profound influence in the course of national and international politics, social and economic currents during his lifetime, and particularly since the turn of the new century. It's an undeniable fact. Second, and that's more important than the first one, Gandhi can't be grasped or defined or explained in straight-jacket formula, as we are accustomed to do, to put great people into a certain kind of jacket. Without jacket, as if the great man can't really be a great man. I'm sorry, Gandhi categorically mentioned there can't be anything called Gandhism. Okay? He didn't let anything that may be termed as Gandhism or Gandhian ideas in that sense. So it is extremely difficult, if not for the scholars, but students like us, to bring out the essential, the universal, the ahistorical Gandhi. That's a very, very difficult task indeed. Yes, and the third, another very important problem, Gandhi developed and used too many ideas, too many concepts, followed too many means, tools, methods of action in definite historical background. If you are familiar with Gandhian writings, then Gandhian philosophy entails so many things which are available in more than 100 volumes right now in the library. That entails pluralism, inclusivism, love, empathy, compassion, nonviolence, tolerance, respect for the other approaches, culture, religion, political, economic orientation. Whether all of this of Gandhi or any one of them are to be considered at the backdrop of the 21st century, frankly speaking, it's my honest submission, I'm really greatly under too much confusion. Okay. So with that problem, I would like to share with you a little bit with reference to one or two particular issue. Now coming back to the first proposition, why I have claimed, or so many people, the 21st century emerges with extraordinary features which can really fit with at least the first half of the 20th century. Why? Let me explain a little bit. First of all, the changing notion of time. I don't have gathered knowledge from rest of the world. I never belonged to the so-called technological world IT sector. But I can understand from my overactive son, who even in the late night, around 2-3 p.m., remains busy, switching on and such and that, and I come to know the time conception has been completely changed for my son from me, from my grandfather. It's completely different. Secondly, rising religious and ethnic intolerance, leading to clash of culture and civilization, at least after the formal experimentation of so-called modernity in Europe. And one man is enough to testify this, Samuel P. Huntington's famous Clash of Civilization. All of you perhaps are familiar with that. Then the third one, in 21st century, high-tech terrorism. High-tech terrorism. Dominance of violence on an unprecedented scale, whether it can be compared with terrorism formally or something different, that again, a completely very difficult question. And above all, sir, taking cue from your submission on Swaraj, helplessness, I must stress upon this particular word, helplessness of the individual, before the rise of all-pervading, oppressive, again I'm consciously using this word, oppressive, social power, be it the state, be it the media, be it religion, be it caste, and so many other things. Autonomy of the individual, the place for the personal individual, I am desperately searching, I find no individual at all. Given this background, now Gandhi can be interpreted in which sphere, it is extremely, extremely difficult a question for me. But with little bit effort, as a student of political science, as a student of modern Indian political thought, what I have tried, I used to nurture 100-volume pages, etc., and I could find at least in 3 areas, Gandhi can be examined, whether still continues to be relevant in the 21st century or not. These 3 are, to me, the first one, the question of security and insecurity with reference to terrorism and violence. The first one. Second one, the clash of culture, the clash of religion, ethnic, and other form of cultures. And finally, the disappearance of the individual from the terrain called democracy. So Gandhian concept of Swaraj. So these 3 areas where I do believe anyone can look for Gandhi, can revisit Gandhi, and there can be some lesson, some hopes for the seeker of truth or seeker of Gandhi. So within the time constraint, I would like to choose one. If you allow, then I can go to the second. The first one, violence, terrorism, non-violence, much sought after issue, at least to the Gandhian scholars. It is well researched. So I need not to go through right now to this, okay? But I have chosen consciously another area and which I do believe we must give adequate attention. This is about clash of culture, clash of civilizations, and at the backdrop of that, what I consider to be very important, inter-religious, inter-ethnic, inter-community dialogue. Okay? So for the time being, bypassing the question of security and insecurity with reference to terrorism and violence, I would like to, within limited time, throw some views, need to interact with you, share with you on this particular domain. Now, I do agree with perhaps one of the most well-known interpreter of Gandhi, Anthony Parole, that Gandhi led successfully India's independence movement. India got independence. Yes, that is hailed as the greatest achievement. But the learned professor research say, with humility, yes, that's a great contribution, but that is only relevant for India and for India. I don't consider it is the greatest contribution of Gandhi. Then what? And then he comes to this conclusion. If after 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 centuries, there will be again a question, what respect Gandhi is important? Gandhi is important intervening more meaningful way, more significant way, more powerful way than any modern interpreter. It is to strike a balance, a marriage between the secular and the spiritual, the religion and the material, between communities, between ethnic groups. And in this domain, Gandhi unbelievably extraordinary, rich corpus of ideas which today, if India, or for that matter, rest of the community across the globe try to follow, then I do believe much of the business of the so-called politician will be disappear from the world. How? Let me. It is interesting to note of that after the so-called full-blown modernization in the 18th, 19th, and the early part of the 20th century, the end of the 20th century began to witness unfolding of unbelievable amount of religious, ethnic conflicts, violence, rifts. Huntington graphically just projected in his Clash of Civilization some of. We are also familiar with some of the world famous incidents that have shaken our nerves, our belief system. Just a repetition, I would like to mention a few. The demolition of the Babri Mosque here in India, the demolition of the Banyan Temple, you know that, unbelievable amount of genocide and massacre in Gujarat, neo-Nazism in Europe, anti-Asian or anti-Muslim backlash in the United States, and I can go on adding several others. Now, people having sanity, people who would like to see the world in a different way, are a bit confused what to do and what not to do when such incidents help unnerving rest of the mankind. Now, can we fit Gandhi here to explain, to analyze, and possible to develop strategies how to counter this? Yes, it's not my answer. Some of the best known Gandhian scholars like Bhikkhu Parekh or Alan or say Parole or my own teacher, late Professor Buddhadev Bhattacharya, or my guru, Annoda Shankar Roy, would give you the answer, yes, it is in Gandhi. The way Gandhi sought to understand religion, the way Gandhi sought to understand intra-ethnic relationship. Let me share with you something. The first thing that Gandhi shares with us, that whether you like it or not, the world, the universe, the human being, and the non-human element too are all in search of one thing. It is called truth. It is called truth. What is truth? You need not to know from the grammar, the dictionary book. You can feel within. That is the best dictionary. And the sense of truthfulness drives everybody towards a particular destination. However, Gandhi emphatically mentioned nobody can ever claim as to be the ultimate, absolute truth holder. In other words, whatever may be the position, whether we admire or not, nobody, no prophet, no sacrosanct text, none can ever claim to reach that absolute truthfulness. It is a continuous search. Continuous search. Then how one can come to realize that he or she or the society or the community is after search of truth? Then Gandhi having some answer to this. And here the first important thing, in search of truth, nobody can be guided by the slightest drop of ill feeling. Let us ask ourselves, when we approach, when we orient our idea, our impression about the other, be it along religious line, be it along caste line, be it along gender line, or be it the west and eastern line, can we certify, we need not to take certificate from God, ourselves, that our apprehensions, our idea, our feeling about the other is not guided by ill feeling, enmity? If it is not, and if it is guided by pure and simple love and nothing else, then I am truly truth finder. I am in search of truth. Okay, so this is the first implication that Gandhi would like to share with us. You may belong to any community. It's not your fault. But unless and until you certify from within that you are running after truth, you are looking for truth, then your label, religion or anything can't really give you the true identity. And for Gandhi, modern civilization is to be criticized not because the artifacts. That's a poor misreading of Gandhi in Hind Swaraj. Gandhi made it absolutely clear that modern civilization, the machine-based civilization, has led mankind to unbelievable amount of consumerism on the one hand and selfishness, brutishness on the other hand. And this selfishness is driving always you to look for more and more the ego-oriented interest. Okay? Now this basic egoism even drives a religious follower. Hence, Gandhi can't accept that whoever is religious, he or she is pious and truly truth finder. Doesn't matter whether you are an atheist or theist, whether you're a believer or not, you belong to this ideology or that ideology, the jacket is just outer, just like our dress. The certificate only can be given neither by God nor by anybody. It is your within, and you need to testify whether you are in true line or not. This is number one, the very important one. Secondly, how to bridge the gap between different religion, different path. Well, let me share with you a direct quotation from Gandhi, what can give you some idea, and that is, I do not believe in the exclusive divinity of the Vedas. Please listen. I do not, and the current, those people who are with power, they don't have this kind of prescription. I don't believe in the exclusive divinity of the Vedas. I believe the Bible, the Quran, the Jendavestha to be as much divinely inspired as the Vedas. So whoever follows the Veda, whoever follows the Quran, whoever follows the Jendavestha, or for that matter, you can go on listing, accordingly, he or she is touched by the divine entity. So there cannot be, truly speaking, any distinction between a Hindu and a non-Hindu, between a Muslim and a non-Muslim. So, according to Gandhi, when the name of religion, people across the globe, across the country, try to create a separate wall, the first thing what they do, they destroy the very foundation of their belief system. And I can share with you one particular incident. It happened in the early 1940s. In Diden, Afghanistan, a news came to Gandhi that more than 100 poor women, mother, they were castigated by the ulemas because they have violated the Islamic, the Quranic script, some rules and regulations. Then Gandhi said, if the women folk or the mothers in Afghanistan have consciously violated some rules belonging to the Holy Quran or Islamic literature, guided by their conscience, I must say they should do it repeated more than 100 times. Because neither the Quran nor the Shastra can bind an individual what to do and what not to do. Because neither Prophet Muhammad nor any prophet so far have clearly pronounced, unless your follower follow this, he or she will be castigated. So it is un-Islamic. Okay, see the pronouncement. Okay. Now, so on the basis of that, what Gandhi prescribed and given the time constraint, there is no other way but to fall back upon an age-old principle. It happened to Gandhi. It happened to many of our lives. If you are in a joint family, if you bought something, what your mother, primarily mother, would suggest, instead enjoying that alone, you share it with others. That is the basic socialization. Gandhi says, the Hindus and the Muslims, the Parsis and the Christians, the best way to develop cordial relationship is continuously run after to know thy neighbor. Unless you know your neighbor, unless you expand your heart, there is no other way, because no state, perhaps Gandhi kept in his mind even the former Soviet Union, I may be wrong, I don't know, in the name of secularism, can't impose this in the society from above. It's an internal revolution. So the only way is to interact, to open up the negotiations, and continuously to know thy neighbor. I have in my mind, particularly my students, my children, you are fortunate enough in an era when your parents don't say, don't visit that house, because that house might provide you the forbidden meat. We had to go through this. Our forefathers had to go through this. So you are really lucky. So under that kind of socializations, there will be a true Gandhiite revolution, that in the future, nobody will introduce himself or herself first as a Hindu, as a Muslim, as upper caste, as a lower caste, only as a human being. And that was the greatest expectation from Gandhi, that his India, Swaraj, will mean not more in numbers Hindus and the Muslims, but one individual, the individual who is guided by the inner voice, conscience. Thank you. I would like to stop here. Okay. If there is any shortcomings on my, the responsibility goes to me. Okay. Thank you once more.
Thank you very much.
An extremely important paper, taking one of the most important contributions of Gandhi on how to unite humans irrespective of religions and several dividing criteria. And the definition of humanity as interrelated individuals, internally evolving as interconnected individuals into a new community of individuals. I think you have given a very important interpretation of Gandhi and the current challenges which we are facing against all the odds today. Thank you very much. Next, I invite Professor Tapan Mukhopadhyay. Tapan Chattopadhyay, I'm so sorry.
Well, as I stand here today on this dais, I strongly feel that things should have been different. Instead of I delivering the Rajashree Bosu Memorial Lecture, it would have been better, it would have looked nice if she could have delivered a lecture in my memory. Rajashree was one of my most outstanding students with extraordinary talents. Friends, I have another little observation to make before I start my paper. I think it is the worst of times today and it is the best of times today. It is the worst of times because state terrorism and state repression in India today have unleashed in such a way that there is a mockery of democracy. It is the best of times today because what has emerged as a reaction to this state terrorism is the phenomenon called student power. Students throughout the country, schools, colleges, universities, have mobilized themselves cutting across political affiliations, cutting across political ideologies. They have got united and they are trying to resist this type of state terrorism. I congratulate the students and teachers of this university because of their prolonged campaign against such state repression, against such mismanagement or wrong policies of the government, against state terrorism. As an ex-student of this institution, I feel not only proud of your actions, students, but I also, I must say, shine in reflected glory. Thank you very much. Congratulations to all of you in presidency. I now propose to talk on something which is generally not discussed. I propose to talk on Gandhi's critique of enlightenment and modernity. And if time permits, I'll try to compare his arguments with some German thinkers, Max Weber and the Frankfurt School. Well, so far as Gandhi is concerned, in the Hind Swaraj we know that he had made a moral indictment, a moral critique of modern civilization. By modern civilization, Gandhi actually meant the Western civilization which emerged from the Industrial Revolution and Enlightenment. So far as Industrial Revolution is concerned, Gandhi felt that it was not merely a change in the mode of production, but it was at the same time it brought into being a new outlook according to which progress meant domination of nature, human mastery over nature, and a new outlook which regarded religion as a superstition to be used only for its social and psychological use. Otherwise, religion should be discarded. That was Industrial Revolution. Same sort of ideas we find also in the Enlightenment, which flourished in Europe from the late 17th century to late 18th century. In Enlightenment, what we find is that there is a reason here is used as a tool. Reason there is an instrumental reason by which you can have knowledge, by which you can have scientific knowledge, and that scientific knowledge should be treated as universally true and universally valid. So in Enlightenment, what we find two things. One, a mistrust of religion, a mistrust of all traditional wisdom, and on the other hand, the Enlightenment, it proposes reason and science as an instrument by which to manipulate the natural world, and that for the satisfaction of human desires and human needs. This is definitely a sort of anthropocentrism, that everything there in the external world, in the natural world, all plants, all animals, everything, the biotic and the abiotic communities, they are to be exploited by human beings by dominating mastery over them. And this is nearly, clearly anthropocentrism. This anthropocentrism had its roots in some notable forerunners of the Enlightenment. I talk particularly of Francis Bacon and René Descartes. Bacon argued that, well, scientific method implies a method by which human beings can can become the master and possessor of nature. Bacon, he also argued on the same lines. Bacon said that to know nature, to control nature, you must know nature. How can you know nature? Vex nature. I'm quoting him. Vex nature, V-E-X. Torture nature. But do not allow it to live alone, because only by that you can know nature. Similarly, we find in René Descartes also. Descartes, he said that there are two realms. One is the realm of the mind, obviously the human world, and the other is the realm of matter, obviously the realm of nature, and that is the natural world, the non-human world. This Cartesian dualism has encouraged the scientists, he himself got encouraged, and encouraged other scientists to take an anthropocentric approach. This Cartesian dualism, that mind is superior, the natural world is a machine-like, dead something. It has no feelings at all because it does not have any mind. So you can torture it. This Cartesian dualism have encouraged vivisection, that is killing of plants and animals in the laboratories in the name of research, and such other cruelties to the external world. Here comes Gandhi. Gandhi protested against this anthropocentrism, and Gandhi protested against the cruelty and the violence that is inherent in this anthropocentric reason of enlightenment. Gandhi, he said that this enlightenment tries to enthrone reason as a universal criterion by which you can decide upon the truth and untruth. But Gandhi said, is it only reason by which we can come to Satya? Is it only reason by which we can derive truth? No. Love, intuition, emotion, they are also factors by which one can arrive at truth, by which one can arrive at Satya. For a Satyagraha, Professor Mohanty has given a beautiful lecture on Satyagraha. For a Satyagrahi, the task is to guide his life on the basis of truth. But how do we know what truth is? Because there are different versions of truth. Every individual can give a different version of truth. So truth has to be found, relative truth, absolute truth is God. Relative truth has to be found cooperatively. And when there is a consensus, a unanimity of opinion that, well, this is truth, this is the social truth, this is the social norm according to which we should act, according to which we should behave. If somebody says, no, I don't accept this truth, I won't follow the truth that has been unanimously accepted in society, well, that is a conflict situation. That is a conflict situation. And in that conflict situation, well, obviously what becomes important is Satyagraha. By truth. So this truth, what will a Satyagrahi do? Gandhi said the Satyagrahi will not do any harm, injury to the opponent. Somebody who is belligerent, who does not listen to the norm, does not accept the consensus. The Satyagrahi has to touch the heart of the opponent through the weapon of love. Why? Because reason, it is a matter of the heart. It pertains to head. And emotion, love, they are in the heart. So the task of the Satyagrahi is to touch the heart of the opponent so that the opponent's heart now dictates the opponent's head to come forward and start a rational discourse, a rational discussion. So truth can be attained not merely by reason with a capital R, but truth has to be attained through emotion, through love, through touching the heart of the opponent. According to post-enlightenment logic, true knowledge can be attained only through scientific method. Interestingly, scientific method, it actually involves a double split in our consciousness. It separates scientific method, it separates our cognition, our thinking process. from all ethical and moral values. What Gandhi wanted was just the opposite. He wanted an ethical science. He wanted scientific methods, scientific research, and technology, but based on ethical principles. Secondly, there is a second split in this self-consciousness, and that is the scientific method implies a total separation of the subject, of the researcher, from his object of knowledge, which means this emotional separation, this impersonal, non-emotional attitude of the researcher leads once more to this anthropocentric approach, which provides a justification for vivisection, for killing of plants and animals in the name of research. Gandhi criticized medical science as the best example of modern scientific method of modern science. In Hind Swaraj, Gandhi said, what happens is that I overeat, I have indigestion, the doctor gives me medicine, I am cured, and I overeat again. So this vicious circle goes on. So what the modern medical science does is that it allows self-indulgence. It allows me to go in the manner you like, and I am there to prescribe medicines, and you will get cured, and you go on consuming. So Gandhi was against this. Gandhi said the true reason of disease, the true cause of disease is there in the lifestyle, in the social living, in the mode of social living. So that has to be changed. But modern doctors are not interested in that. Gandhi, he had compared modern medical treatment with indigenous medical treatment. For instance, suppose in India, here in the tropical or semi-tropical countries, diarrhea is a very common disease. For diarrhea, the treatment here, the indigenous treatment was giving curd rice, giving coconut oil, or giving puffed rice with water, jol muri that is. So the intention here, and such other things, the intention here in this indigenous medical treatment, the intention is to enhance one's immunity system. Whereas the external attack is made by modern medicine. You have some problem with your guts, you have some loose motion, diarrhea. Well, here is the bacteria. That bacteria is invasive, it goes to your guts, it kills all types of bacteria, friendly and enemy, both. So this is modern medicine. Modern medicine also, medical system, is also modern, not medical system only, but modern science in general, is esoteric, expertocentric. Expertocentric. It is esoteric. Well, what happens is that you have to give control over your body completely. You have to transfer it to the medical doctor, to the medical technologist. A doctor may be very much democratic in his actual political beliefs. He may support democratic institutions in politics, but so far as his profession is concerned, he is not democratic. To the modern doctor, it is an embarrassment when a patient knows what his disease is, when a patient knows what type of treatment he should be given. A modern doctor always prefers a silent patient, because a silent patient who doesn't question at all regarding the procedure of treatment, regarding the medicines prescribed, a silent patient is an ideal patient to the modern doctor. Gandhi, he wanted to revive the dignity, the control of the patient's body over the patient himself. The patient should have his control over his own body. He wanted to emancipate, liberate the patient's body from the control of the medical technologist. Gandhi was against scientism and technicism, both. Scientism is in the name of fighting against religious superstitions. Scientism is opposed to all forms of spiritualism. Gandhi was therefore against scientism. Gandhi was also against technicism, because technicism, it actually hierarchizes the relationship not only between human world and the natural world, but also between those who possess technology and those who do not possess technology. That is hierarchy within the human society itself. Gandhi was against this technicism. In the name of technicism as an ideology, a new definition of social change is given, a new definition of development, growth, and such other things, progress, which means that the modern state can be given immense powers to develop things, to make a development by asking the citizens to make immense sacrifices. So Gandhi was against technicism. But though Gandhi rejected technicism as an ideology, he did not reject all forms of technology itself. He advocated that type of technology and machines which do not supplant human beings, which are non-alienating, which preserve the dignity of the machine operator, dignity of the worker. And Gandhi says that the charkha has these qualities. The charkha, Gandhi's, the spinning wheel, it is non-alienating. It guarantees the dignity of the charkha operator, the worker himself. So Gandhi prefers the charkha to the cotton mill. However, Gandhi was neither a Luddite. He did not believe in breaking of machines, that Luddite phenomenon. And at the same time, he was not in favor of all forms of traditional technology, because there are very many traditional technology in India which Gandhi criticized as alienating, as dehumanizing. So Gandhi did not accept all type of technology. Modern technology, it has brought with it a technocracy. A technocracy means a rule of the technocrats. Modern society, modern civilization is run by professionals and managers. Even personal salvation you cannot have. In the case of personal salvation also, whether secular or spiritual, you need some social engineers. Gandhi did not believe in this. Gandhi believed that personal salvation is attaining a moksha is a personal affair, when one can do without the help of social engineers. So that was Gandhi's argument, that freedom and autonomy of the individual should be guaranteed in the name of social engineering, in the name of promoting one's salvation. There should not be control of the individuals by some social engineers, by some managers, and by some professionals. Amake amar moto thakte dao. That was Gandhi's argument here. Well, in Hind Swaraj, Gandhi actually, he criticized machinery and industrialization. Gandhi said that modern civilization has two pillars. One is consumerism, and the other is to fulfill this consumerist need, produce more through ever-increasing mechanization, ever-increasing industrialization. So far as consumerism goes, Gandhi said that, well, no government worth the name can put a limit to one's consumption, to the individual's consumptive rate. What is needed is an auto-limitation of needs. I have to decide myself what to consume and what not to consume. I have to think that there are very many poor people who have neither food nor clothes, who have no shelter at all. So before living a luxurious lifestyle, I have to think that. But in modern civilization, that is not done. Modern civilization means more and more consumerism. And this consumer spirit is sought to be satisfied by more and more production of commodities. So Gandhi was against both consumerism as well as this ever-increasing mechanization. In Hind Swaraj, Gandhi, he took an extreme position, which he later modified. He said that, well, machinery has plenty of defects. After discussing in the chapter on machinery in Hind Swaraj, the various defects of machinery, of machine-based civilization, Gandhi said that instead of welcoming machinery as a boon, we should look upon it as an evil. That was his conclusion in the chapter on machinery. Subsequently, however, Gandhi faced much criticism. Gandhi was asked, what do you think? After we become independent, well, we won't have a machine at all. So he said that no, what I am against is not machinery as such, but the craze for machinery. The craze for machinery, that is technicism. Gandhi said in 1924, what I object to is the craze for machinery and not machinery as such. He also said, I am opposed to machinery which displaces labor and leaves it idle. Gandhi was not against industrialization as such, but against industrialism which displaces human labor, which makes human labor idle. So Gandhi was against this machinery. To Gandhi, modern civilization is immoral and irreligious. It does not have spirituality. He says that in Western civilization, in the Western world, what we find is that a focus is on ortho and kama. The focus is on material needs and physical desires. And what is ignored totally is dharma, the spiritual aspects of life. So Gandhi said that by accepting modern civilization, what has happened is that the Western world, it is going far and far away from the essence of Christianity itself. Because Christianity does not believe in merely satisfying material and physical needs. Christianity believes in spirituality. But modern civilization is going far and far away from the essence of Christianity. Well, to Gandhi, modern civilization, he says, represents forces of evil and darkness. Whereas the ancient, he says, that is Indian civilization, represents in its essence the divine force. Modern civilization is chiefly materialistic, as ours, that is Indian civilization, is chiefly spiritual. It is true that Gandhi eulogized Indian civilization. But although Gandhi eulogized Indian civilization and strongly asserted that it was superior to modern Western civilization, he was not a blind traditionalist. He was not a blind traditionalist. On 24th November 1927, Gandhi said in a speech, I quote, I am no indiscriminate, superstitious worshipper of all that goes under the name of ancient. I repeat, Gandhi said, I am not indiscriminate, superstitious worshipper of all that goes under the name of ancient. He said that he was not an indiscriminate despiser of anything Western, because he said that he himself assimilated very many things from the West. So what Gandhi believed is that, yes, there are some positive aspects in Indian civilization. Indian civilization is based basically on spirituality, whereas Western civilization is based basically on ortho and kama, material and physical desires. It is true, Gandhi said that. It is true also that Gandhi, he accepted the ancient Varna system. Ancient Varna system was accepted by Gandhi on the ground that it provides hereditary occupation, and by providing that hereditary occupation, it restricts unemployment. It can give full employment to the people. He said that the hierarchy that we find in the Varna system and the Brahminical dominance, they were all later expolies. They were all later distortions. They were not there originally there. Gandhi, yes, he was totally against untouchability as we know it. But although his conceptual frame was traditional, he aggressively criticized, like social reformers before him, very many social evils in India. Child marriage, polygamy, and all these things. He criticized them. But the Devadasi system, for instance, he was bitterly critique of all these things. So, following Ashish Nandi, I would like to call Gandhi not a nativist. He was not a nativist as such, like Ananda Kumaraswamy and others, they can be regarded as nativist. But Gandhi was not a nativist in that sense, but he was a critical traditionalist. He was a traditionalist, but a critical traditionalist. Dipesh Chakraborty also agreed with Ashish Nandi in regarding Gandhi as a critical traditionalist. A critical traditionalist is somebody who does not allow post-enlightenment rationalism to be the overall guide to action, but at the same time they do not reject science in toto. Gandhi wanted to reconstruct both Western civilization as well as Indian civilization. Gandhi wanted to reconstruct in his critique of Western civilization, Gandhi wanted to reconstruct Western civilization in terms of spirituality, which it lacked. And while criticizing Indian traditional orthodoxy, very many bad practices in Indian tradition, Gandhi also wanted to reconstruct it in modern ways. So what Gandhi wanted was a reconstructed Indian tradition and a reconstructed modern civilization. He wanted to merge these two things to form a universal civilization based on humanism and spirituality. Well, Gandhi, what should be remembered here is that Abdul Samad Gayan has already touched on this issue. I'm just repeating that in his ashrams there were no worshipping of gods. I personally went to the Sevagaon ashram, that is in Sevagram near Wada, and I saw that there is no such thing as pujas held there. What is there compulsorily held is prayer meetings. And prayer not from the Hindus, but prayer of the Muslims, the prayer of the Christians. The Bible was read, the Quran was read, the Gita was read. The bhajan, not only Raghupati Raghava, but also from other religions also. Poems were chanted. So Gandhi, when he talked of Ram Rajya, is not that. He was talking in terms of a Hindu state. Those who believe that by Ram Rajya Gandhi wanted to establish a Hindu state are living in a fool's paradise. They know nothing of Gandhi. Gandhi never said so. Gandhi said that by Ram Rajya I mean a Rajya, a polity based on justice, And he himself said, I talk of Ram because everybody in India, even the illiterate masses, can realize Ram and they regard Ram as standing for justice, for equality, for secularism, for democracy. And he himself said, well, when I go to the northeast frontier province, when my audience are Muslims, I say Khudai Raj. And when I talk to the Christians, I say, I want to establish a kingdom of God on earth. They are all same. Ram and Rahim are same. There is no difference. So Gandhi was in favor of secularism. Gandhi was in favor of a secular polity. Those who regard Ram Rajya as a something akin to Hindu Rajya, Hindu state, are totally, they have misconceived Gandhi. Well, I have no, actually what I intended to do, I don't have time to do so, was that to compare Gandhi's critique. Gandhi made a critique from, to say so, from outside the imperium. Gandhi made his critique of enlightenment and modern civilization from a colonial country. And there are Western critiques also in Western world. Particularly, I wanted to compare Gandhi's views on enlightenment, on reason, on rationality with the views of Max Weber, with the Frankfurt School thinkers Adorno, Horkheimer and Herbert Marcuse, and also with Hannah Arendt. There is no such time. I will not go into details of it. Just 2 or 3 minutes, I'll conclude.
2 minutes.
Max, 2 minutes. Max Weber, he said that modern age is characterized by rationalization. And this rationalization is documented in religious life, in law, even in music. And he said that there is a dialectic in this rationalization. On the one hand, rationalization has increased freedom and autonomy of the individuals. But on the other hand, rationalization have made a special division of labor. And everybody is becoming a fragmented specialist. And everybody is there working within that contour of that fragmented specialization. This is an iron cage. And people are increasingly bound to that iron cage. I'm not explaining, I'm not going into details. Adorno and Horkheimer, they wrote a book, The Dialectic of Enlightenment. They said that unfortunately enlightenment, which promised emancipation, which promised liberation from the shackles of mythology, enlightenment has turned to its opposite, and it has now become some sources of repression. They gave the Homer's Odysseus, that epic, very interesting epic, to show that how satisfaction is based on repression, how enjoyment of music is based on physical repression in the case of Odysseus. I'm not narrating the story because I don't have the time. Had I had the time, I could have narrated the story to you. Very interesting epic of Homer. And finally, Marcuse. Marcuse, he also, in his one-dimensional man, he said that this is a one-dimensional society, which is actually a false social order, which creates false needs by through its advertisements. Advertising some shampoos and some mouthwashes as will be intensifying sex appeal, sort of. Some motor cars which will enhance your power. Some worthless health tonics, which will revive your health. Well, in an Indian context, it may be Horlicks, it may be Complan, I don't know. And some clothes which will also enhance your personality. Raymond's a perfect man. So these are the things, advertisements that are going on, Marcuse says, and to get rid of all these things, one has to realize, one has to understand that one is conditioned by the circumstances. How is he or she conditioned, and how to get reconditioned? That should be the critical theory. That should be the understanding. That is Marcuse. Arendt, I'm closing. Arendt, Hannah Arendt, another German thinker, not in the Frankfurt School, but outside of Frankfurt School. She also faced the same fate. She had to run away from Germany like the Frankfurt School thinkers because Hitler declared a war on communists and Jews. She, being a Jew, she went to America, and in the human conditions, she said that, well, in this modern economy, what we find is the range of needs have terribly increased, and more goods are produced, but it doesn't mean that because there are more goods produced, people are well fed and well clothed. Because there is an inequality in income, those who are poor cannot buy the things produced. Gandhi was also against these false needs. Gandhi was also against these false needs. Gandhi was also against this consumerism, and this consumerism, Gandhi said, is the pillar of modern civilization. Thank you. I could have said more.
Our final presentation is the paper by Professor Supriya Munshi, who couldn't come, and Madhura would present that.
The paper is titled Educational Thought of Mahatma Gandhi. It's by Supriya Munshi. He is not well, so let us all of us wish that he gets well soon. Mahatma Gandhi was not a philosopher in the formal sense of the term. He said that action was his domain. However, we find a clear-cut blueprint of his social philosophy in his writings. Education is a many-splendored word, concept, or social institution, and so many dimensions can be derived from it. The classical definition is a method or a process to bring out the best in many, body, mind, and spirit or soul, to which Gandhi himself subscribed, to help man realize his own self and take his due part in the society, ensuring in the process his protection from any form of exploitation. I quote, "Man is neither mere intellect, nor the gross animal body, nor the heart and the soul alone. A proper and harmonious combination of all three is required for the making of whole man and constitutes the true economics of education," as said by Gandhi in Harijam. Also, education could be a change agent for transformation of a society suffering from structural oppression, or even a system maintainer, as Macaulay would have it. Education has been found to be elitist as well as creates division in the society or complexes that provoked Illich to formulate his theory of deschooling society. Pitirim Sorokin, in his book Reconstruction of Humanity, described the present civilization as sensate civilization, the dominant thrust being satisfaction of one's sense organs, and thus specified another dimension when he observed that humanity, bleeding for war wounds and frightened by the atomic Frankenstein of destruction, was desperately looking for a way out of death trap and wanted peace in place of war, love in lieu of hate, and greater wisdom. Almost in the similar vein, Mahatma Gandhi observed Maria Montessori at the end of 1931 in Italy itself that to reach peace in this world, consciously or unconsciously, the whole world was hungering. We should have to work in two areas: children and education. In fact, the Gandhian paradigm is altogether different from other theoreticians in the sense that he had a comprehensive and holistic approach to education, like his attitude to other aspects of life and living, to achieve an equitable, non domineering, non exploitative, non violent social order with maximum individual liberty, to limited possible state control, and raise cultured individuals to sustain the emerging new society. For Gandhi, was more concerned with the quality and content of life, and that for all, particularly those in the lower ranks of the society or at the receiving end. Gandhiji realized the true purpose of education in the emerging context of his endeavor and reshaped the contents and methodology so that it could reach everyone, or all could come under one system, so that division on any count, economic, gender, caste, or creed disappears altogether, and Sarvodaya was achieved. He called basic education that which was minimum necessary for growth of a cultured citizen. Cultured because in the ultimate power structure conceived by Gandhi, he is always prepared for supreme sacrifice if need be. It should start from the very base with the parents to whom a child is exposed first. Gandhi observed at one place that education is a continuous process from conception to death, and it could be varied in consonance with the necessities of a good and truthful living, ensuring in the process such living for others. Gandhiji's society may be called truth society, also where voluntary control is a basic necessity that one would have to learn from the very base or early life. When Gandhi gave a call to the countrymen to boycott British services, courts, and educational institutions, he was aware that he had to have substitutes, and that gave birth to the concept of basic education. Gandhi, of course, was disillusioned about the state of education, and which was also denied to a vast rung of population, particularly the rural masses, who Gandhi thought formed the bulk of population. So, not only as a historic necessity or in exigency, but for true education with all its granderness, attributes, and dimensions, Gandhi experimented with his ideas about education first in South Africa and continued it after coming over to his motherland. We may remember here that whether in South Africa or in India, he had his charge the children of Satyagrahis, who also in the process would take their parents' place or form the second line to fight against injustice, oppression, and exploitation, which actually happened. Gandhi was also aware about the cost involved that might have prevented most to have even the basic education. Hence, he wanted to make it self-supporting, that while learning, the learners would also be earning. But this was not mere vocational training, but with great dimensions. And I quote, "Basic education must become literally education for life. All educational activity of the government should be on basic education lines. If I had my way, I would conduct adult education drives also through a basic craft. In my opinion, cotton spinning and the allied processes are crafts par excellence for this purpose." Unquote. Gandhi wanted education to be system builder instead of system maintainer. He perceived that one way there might be a clash between the educated privileged and undereducated or unprivileged. As such, he tried to de-link education from employment and orient it, as I have observed earlier, to such effect that it might lead to the upliftment of the downtrodden, to diffusion of power, to a culture of accumulation and equity, in a sense, a non-elitist society, what he called non-violent social order. The content of education or curriculum would change accordingly, not only the usual ones, but truthfulness, matters of health, nutrition, cooperation, helping parents in domestic jobs and social service, and obviously engagement in some gainful activity would ultimately prepare a child to assume his proper and beneficial role in society in the future. He also wanted to teach the students intricacies or working of every process so that this did not remain mechanical or artificial to them, but involved them for assimilation and further flowering. Interestingly, Gandhiji wanted to teach drawing first and a medium of instruction at the primary state, mother tongue. I quote, real education is impossible through a foreign medium. Another important criterion we must take into consideration is that since Gandhi talked of raising the society, non-meritorious would need more attention to guarantee an equitable opportunity to all sections of the population. I mean the reverse process. It would also require naturally a different set of measures for evolution, the ultimate aim. It should also have a new typology of institutions, technologies, sizes of industries, and management considerations, and even criteria for employment. What I am at through the Gandhian paradigm is to prepare people through education to accept the reality that co-sharing should be the order. Affluence cannot be guaranteed for all. So productions will follow the minimum necessary consumption level. Wages and prices do not chase each other. Centralized large-scale monoliths collapse in the milieu. Consensus, not majority, rules the day, and a stable social and economic life emerges. And thus, the new education helps remove the last vestiges of violence from its roots, bringing in the process of peace and democracy. Gandhiji called it silent revolution. Thank you.